Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything. I'm coming at you with another web series. This one's going to be on Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, right? A lot of you know that I've been role-playing probably almost every system in the book since 1977. So if I was to have to list some of my favorites, I would say Traveler was my favorite. Uh, Old 2nd edition Dungeons and Dragons, RuneQuest, the original Chaosium version, maybe a little Paranoia, maybe some. Actually, I like the Lord of the Rings role-playing game. Um, what else? What else is out there that I played? The Fantasy Trip. You guys probably don't even know what that is. Melee and Wizard. I played Warhammer Fantasy. I played that for quite a while because I was really into the Warhammer figures, so it was a natural progression to play the role-playing game because I'm a big figure painter, as you probably already know from my Wargaming and Miniatures videos. What else did I play? I played a little bit of Robotech role-playing game. Uh, Maybe my friends play Palladium and Rifts and Mutants and Masterminds and Champions, Mech Warrior, and the list goes on. I'm starting to just take up all the time listing off all the games that I've played. But and hell, you can see quite a few of them on my shelves back here. Like there's I can't even point right. Like that's my Traveler collection. All three of those shelves. Actually, if you count the binders underneath, those are also Traveler books, believe it or not. And then over behind my head, you got your Warhammer and RuneQuest books. But okay, never mind. Uh, I have quite a bit of experience being a dungeon master or a game master or a referee, as some games would call them. Uh, I get a lot of enjoyment from running a game. Okay, and basically I've got my story that I want to tell, and the players come and enjoy that story. So I'm more of a kind of like Werewolf. I'm a storyteller, so I'm telling my story, and the players are impromptu actors in my play, right? Okay, so uh, there was a natural progression going from the beginning of time, my gaming time, throughout the years up until currently I'm running a D&D 5th edition. Now, the reason why I'm telling you all this is because I want you to understand my mindset and where I'm coming from when I come at you with these videos, so that when you are watching these videos, you go, yeah, I remember when Derek said this and he said that, Okay. So let me give you a little bit of history about my thought process. And I know that if you're not interested in this, then just fast forward. but in high school, right, I was playing, let me rephrase that. In high school, I visited my cousin in Houston, and we went and saw the movie The Lord of the Rings. This was in 77, 76, something like that. This was the rotoscoped Lord of the Rings, right? We went to the theater and saw that, okay? So I saw The Lord of the Rings, and I said, man, that's really cool, man, blah, blah, blah. I was young, right? I was like 13 years old. How old was I? 14, 13, 14, whatever. But I went there, and he's like, hey, this is Dave, by the way. He goes, we have this game we play every week, it's called Dungeons and Dragons, and it's just like Lord of the Rings. You can play a character and blah, 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 blah. And he started explaining it to me. And I go, man, that sounds cool. That's cool as hell. So I came back home, and I used to live in New Orleans. And so I came back home to New Orleans and found a game store. I went out and looked for a game store, found a game store, went there, saw that they were selling games, the Dragon Magazine and original Dungeons and Dragons, first edition, Traveler, some other games. I can't remember the games they were selling. Uh, Spaceships and Space Opera, yeah, or something. I don't remember. But there was a bunch of these other games that they were selling. Airfix figures, miniature stuff. But they were more of a hobby shop. They just had one little shelf you know, of gaming stuff. And so what I did was I picked up the basic box set, took it home, uh, put together a little adventure, ran my dad through it, and you know, he really wasn't into that, right? But at least, you know, he helped me out, right? And from then on, I started writing adventures and making plans and stuff. Okay, so one day, I know, here we go. I'm trying to get to the point, but one day I was in school and I had my player's handbook maybe with me. It was in with all my school books, right? Because like at lunch or whatever, I would go over the book and, you know, well, I had it sitting on the top of my books in chemistry class, I remember, and a guy in my chemistry class, his name was John Patterson, he came to me and he said, you know, hey, I see that you got a D&D book. Are you a D&D player, or you play Dungeons and Dragons and stuff? And honestly, I really hadn't played because I didn't know anybody that played. I didn't know how to approach somebody and find, you know, this was before the time of the internet, before I knew that there were, I wasn't really up on the whole go to the game store club thing, and you know, I didn't know any of that. So, but I had the books and I was really excited to play, and he said, "Yeah, he plays too." And so that was the end. As soon as he and I got together, we started gaming together. We brought in a couple of our other friends in, Robert Whitney and some others, and we had our little high school D&D group. Okay. John was running some other games like Gamma World and the Fantasy Trip and things like this, and maybe even Spelljammer, if you can remember that game. And then I was running Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, and also historical miniature gaming because I was into that. Okay, so we kind of alternated what we were going to play and when we were going to play it and stuff. And he he really opened my eyes, and that's what I'm hoping to do with you guys today, right? I'm hoping to um, bring you to the next level of a whole nother level. I'm trying to bring you to a whole nother level of game mastering and playing, just playing and game mastering, role playing, okay? And I spell role R-O-L-E and not R-O-L-L, okay? You're not role playing, you're playing a role, right? Okay, so uh, he basically said there's a whole bunch of role-playing games out there, and it doesn't really matter what game you play because your story is your story, and the players are going to act the way the player's going to act, okay? It does not matter what the rules are. Rules are meant just as a guideline to guide the person making the story. It's to guide the players and how to interact with the story, but it's not how you play the game. All right, so he opened my eyes to these other games, and you know, he told similar stories that I was telling, but the rules, you know, I don't know how to say this. He basically showed me a bunch of other game systems that were more streamlined and easier and more logically set up than the old D&D games, right? D&D had I don't know if you played a lot of D&D games, but back in second edition D&D, you had negative armor classes, you had charts where you took your level and your class and the armor class, and you had to roll a certain number to hit that, and then you got pluses for strength and dex and things like that, and the progression of the numbers was crazy. I mean, there was even a thing where you could have an 18 strength, but a human could have a higher than 18 strength. But if you had an 18, you would roll percentile dice and get a number between 1 and 100, and the chart would progress up and you would think, right, Now I'm gonna try to help. This kind of goes into player mentality, but you would think that only 1 out of 36 people would have an 18 strength, right? And then you would, out of 36 characters, I should say, because you could roll up 1,000,000 characters. We'll double that because a lot of referees like you to, or we'll even say 2 or 3. We'll say 3 maybe. People would 3 might have an 18 strength. Of those 3 people, you need to have 100 people roll to get a double op. That's the statistics, right? So out of those 3, you have to have about, each one of them could roll percentile. We'll say 33% of them, of each individual ones. So you have to have, you gotta have like 100 characters, right? You gotta have more than that. You have to get like, out of 36 characters times 100 times, the number's astronomical is what I'm trying to say. So you'd have a super large number of people that would have to make characters to get a guy with an 18 double op. But it would seem like every player that I talked to at a convention or at a gaming party or at a game club or whatever, every one of them would have a guy with an 18 double op strength. Broken, or cheating, or someone's allowing them to get this. So, okay, back in. That's not what this is talking about. What I'm talking about is every game system had their own rules, right? So when I joined the service, because I went into the Army, and when I went into the Army, I found a lot of people playing games in the Army like Starfleet Battles and whatever else. And I ran my D&D game. And I started to see that Dungeons & Dragons was pretty good system. Everybody loved it. But there were other games out there that were a little bit more, I'm going to use finger quotes, realistic, right? Because the combat system was better. Because remember, in 2nd edition, there was a lot of things that were wrong with the game, in my opinion. One of the things that was wrong was combat. The way combat was set up. And you can go back and check all this out, but a round of combat was 1 whole minute. Okay? A round of combat was a minute of fighting. A turn was 10 minutes, and you had 6 turns in an hour, But you had so basically you had 10 rounds would be a turn, right? And then, okay, so that's kind of irrelevant. But what I'm saying is you would get 1 attack roll per round. Everybody would get 1 attack roll per round. And you might get 2 or more depending on your level and things like that. And who knows what. But you'd pretty much get 1 attack roll per minute. Okay? So the way it was explained to me was your armor class is not your inability to be hit. It was your ability to avoid being damaged. Okay? And I could get with that because, you got plate armor, you're probably getting hit 2 or 3 times, more than if you had leather armor, but the leather armor can't stop the blade from cutting you, but the plate armor did. So the plate armor, even though you're getting hit more often, you're just not taking as much damage. So your opponent is not getting an opportunity to roll damage, because what your to hit roll was, it's not to hit, it was to successfully cause damage to your opponent. Okay, so I was trying to wrap my head around this, and a lot of a lot of the other games were doing the old 6-second melee rounds, so that you would make an attack roll every 6 seconds. Or if you're a really good fighter, you're making an attack roll 2 or 3 times in 6 seconds. Now, I didn't know any better. 1 minute, who cares? Just roll and we'll just play the game, right? Well, I joined this medieval combat group, and we actually went out and fought, and I would fight full contact medieval style combat. Shoot, I'm hitting a guy probably 5 or 6 times. I don't want to say per second, but I'm hitting him. I'm going boom, 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 right? And the guy is taking hits, and he's blocking, whatever. I'm missing. He's hitting me. I'm hitting him, whatever. But there was a lot more than one per minute, right? So I understand the whole it's causing damage over the time, right? And when I was fighting, yeah, I'm throwing a flurry of blows, and so is he, and I'm not hitting him, and he's not hitting me. He's blocking him, and I'm blocking him, and it would take 2 or 3 minutes before I would get a killing blow on him. Boom, right? So I could get along with the whole Dungeons & Dragons melee rounds are a minute, because like if I'm fighting a kobold and I make my attack, a minute later that kobold's dead, right? And that's probably what would happen. But there was too many other games out there that were saying the melee rounds were 6 seconds. And I'm thinking, okay, 6 seconds, that's reasonable, and that 6-second time frame gives you enough time to maneuver around, so it's not so, so you get it. It's better to show that you're moving further than it is for you to be making minor changes, okay? So I'm cool with the 6-second. D&D wasn't like that. D&D had the crazy 2-hit charts. Every player had to have his own hit chart. Oh, we're not even talking about Rollmaster. That was even crazier. But I played Rollmaster for quite a bit of time, and I really dug that game. But that game there, Rollmaster, was like numbers out the wazoo. Okay, you had to, too much math. And okay, and so I jumped ship from Dungeons & Dragons, and I went to play games like RuneQuest, super easy. Went to play games like the Fantasy Trip, super easy. Your strength is your hit points. Your dex is what you have to roll on 3d6 or less to hit. It was like your intelligence score is how many skills you have. It's like super easy game system. And that's the kind of game that I was preferring, were these quick, easy, take the rules out of the equation and play the story, right? That's why I didn't get into a whole bunch of these other games. Riffs, what's the other one I was thinking? GURPS. Okay, I played GURPS for a while because it was basically the Fantasy Trip 2.0. But when it went to 2.0, it went to 2-point complicated, right? And so I decided not to play GURPS. I played a lot of Traveler, super easy system, 2d6 system, I played all kinds of systems. 3.5, Dungeons & Dragons came out, and I was like, okay, 3.5, maybe they fixed it. Well, they fixed a couple of things, but then they really broke things. You started getting feats, I'm going to have a whole video on feats, but they had feats, they had, I don't know, THAC0. No, I think they got rid of THAC0 out of 2.0. I think that 3.5, I don't remember, because I skipped 3.5 pretty much, because 3.5 was even more complicated than 2.0. 2.0 is, believe it or not, a simple system. Now, looking back on it, I'm saying, wow, that was a simple system. But now I'm more mature, and I've played so many other systems that I can look back on 2.0 and say, wow, that was simple. But at the time, when I was younger, that was a complicated system. And it was stupid. It was a stupid system. the how you figured out things was crazy. There was no skill system, pretty much. It was just strike, cast a spell, done, right? You couldn't pick a lock unless you were a thief. You couldn't detect a trap unless you were an elf. You know, you couldn't see a secret door unless you were an elf. You know, and there's all kinds of stupid rules. But okay, so 3.5 came out. That came out and it was in existence when I owned my game store. So I owned a game store. I didn't run any 3.5, but there was people playing 3.5. Then it went to like a D20. It was pretty much the D20 system, open license, and all that stuff, right? Traveler even went to the D20 system, and I tried that for a little while. I thought that was pretty good, but it wasn't classic, you know. I know I'm jumping around, and I'm sorry, but in this video, I kind of wanted to preface my series so that you'll know where I'm coming from. And I really haven't, you know, okay. Okay, now let's get to more. So I'm playing all these other games. I'm jumping all over the place. I'm trying to find the perfect system, right? I want it to be, I want it to have enough substance, but I don't want it to be so complicated that it's not worth playing, you know, and then it takes you 100, you know, characters get lost or they lose excitement about the game because they're too worried about the rules and they can't get into the story, you know. But I don't want to tell a story without rules that the players can wrap their heads around. So I've been trying to find all these great systems, and Warhammer did a good job of that. Warhammer has a really good story. It's just super dark. Their universe is just so dark. It's not a. I prefer the high fantasy games, you know, where you got the damsel in distress, you got the dragon, you know, you got. Wait, shoot, I even played. Shoot, what's that game called? It's not Camelot. King Arthur, Camelot. Can't remember what the name of the game was, but that's what we played, right? And so that was fun. But yeah, there's so 5.0. Well, I'm skipping 4.0 because I kind of just I heard 4.0 wasn't really that good. It was made for children. It was like dummied down so far. This is what I heard. Now I never read any of the books or anything, but I heard it was dummied down to the point where it was kind of for kids, and it was, you know, and I played a lot of those type of games, and that's not what I was looking for. And then I started watching like a web series called Critical Role, and you can go check them out. They're on Geek and Sundry. I started watching Critical Role where they were running a D&D game. The guy was running a Pathfinder game. Now, Pathfinder is basically 3.5. Okay, with some of their own modifications, right? So it was a 3.5 game, and I'm thinking, well, whatever, it's 3.5, you know. I'm not really watching to understand the die rolls or, you know, did they hit, did they not hit, you know, what kind of spells they're casting, none of that. I tuned in because I wanted to hear the story from the referee, from the dungeon master, and how the players interacted with all the NPCs and things like that. That's why I watched. I don't care about the rules. Okay. I say that, but I do. So I really do care about the rules, but that's not why I tuned in. Okay. And in the very first episode, it was, you know, like Craghammer, and they would talk to some dwarves and blah blah blah, and they had really good character interactions. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna keep coming back. And then I discovered that they're not playing 3.5 or Pathfinder, they're playing 5th edition. And they all made a comment that they had made a conversion because they had been playing for about a year off screen, and they had been playing, and they converted to 5.0, and there were some things that were a little messed up or needed to be changed because the conversion didn't come over exactly one for one. And I'm like, oh, so you're playing 5.0. Okay, cool. You know, or 5th edition. Cool. You know, whatever. I don't care. So then I'm watching, I'm enjoying, I'm getting a good old time. And then I'm realizing something. I'm really getting into the story, and I'm picking up the rules. Like the rules are easy enough to pick up without even having the books, right? I was like, wow, I pretty much know the rules just from watching like 2 or 3 episodes of this game online, this podcast. I said, that sounds really cool. So I went and looked up 5th edition, did some little research, and it looks pretty good. I was like, man, okay, 5th. So I went out and I got all the books. I'm Dungeon Master Guide, Monster Manual, Player's Handbook, right? And I said, okay, let me read through these. Let me find out if I really like this game or not, right? Bottom line, it's my go-to fantasy game system right now. I'm digging 5th edition, and here's the reasons why. I know it took me 20 minutes to get to this point, but let me tell you, you can make a character in 30 minutes. Super easy. You roll your stats, you pick your class, you pick your race, you add your modifiers, you pick your skill proficiencies, you write down the equipment that your class and your race give you, and you're done. And then you join the game, right? So I'm like, wow. And you get max hit points and blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of things that I did already. I gave my first level characters max hit points. I mean, why not? I gave them bonuses on their die rolls so they're more heroic. Sure, whatever. So, and then I looked at the experience, monsters, the way the abilities for the monsters are worded, the way they made dragons worth putting in the game. Because in 2nd edition, every first level character could kill a dragon. In 3.5, a party of first level characters could stomp over a whole nest of ancient dragons or whatever. It was pretty broke. But in 5th edition, they made their namesake Dungeons and Dragons. The dragons are deadly. I mean, they'll wipe you out. Like, right? If you're not super high level. And when I say super high level, it's like I'm not going to get into all the rules because that's what the future videos are going to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into leveling. I'm going to go into the different races. I'm going to go into the different classes. I'm going to go into race class combinations that I personally think are pretty cool. I'm going to go into the world of Forgotten Realms. We're going to talk about Forgotten Realms. We're going to talk about magic. We're going to talk about clerics. We're going to talk about ranger abilities, all the class abilities basically, and how they call it magic, but I don't really view it as magic, and blah blah blah. And then we'll go into like storytelling, how to set up an encounter. We'll go up in basically we're going to go through the Dungeon Master Guide chapter by chapter. I'm going to explain what they mean by certain things and why I use it or why I don't use it, because there's a lot of stuff in this book that I will not touch because I think it's broke. But you know what? That's your prerogative. If you're the dungeon master of your game, don't put it in your game just because it's in the book. Put it in the game because you want it in the game. If you don't want it in the game, take it out. If you want to give everybody in your game 15 magic items, reconsider that. But if it's you, if you want to do that, you're playing some world that everybody has magic, give it to them. That's you. Okay, Player's Handbook. I'm going to go through each of the spell lists. We're going to talk vaguely about each spell. We're going to talk about the classes and the races and the feats and how to level up and great things like that, and how to role play certain types of characters and not just be a wandering band of monster murderers. And then we're going to go into the monster manual. I'm going to go over a variety of different monsters a little bit at a time. As this series progresses, we can kind of go over each monster and maybe how they differ from previous editions and how they are more powerful in this edition, or some of them are actually kind of weaker, I think. But all the monsters are more logical and go over the different abilities that, because now they have lair abilities, you have legendary abilities, you have abilities like one monster might have something called a pack tactics, right? And then another monster, if it has pack tactics, that ability is like exactly the same. But if, like in previous editions, um, you might have a monster with pack tactics and it does one thing, and then another monster has pack tactics but it does a different thing. To me, that's wrong. Okay, so they cleaned that up, and we'll go over all that. So I plan to go over all that. Now I was also maybe planning on going over some different modules and adventures, but I want to hold off because I'm currently running this one, the Horde of the Dragon Queen, and I'm going to getting ready to go into uh, the Rise of Tiamat, right, which is the second book on this series. And I don't really want to go into these books until I'm done running them, because then I can give you a good review and a good give you hints and ideas for how to run your game. I could go chapter by chapter, but I don't want to alert any of my players onto the story. I know they could go and buy the book and read it from cover to cover, and I know they don't want to do that, but they might be watching my web series, and if they are, I don't want to give them any clues, spoilers or whatever, until after we're already through that part of the adventure, and then they can see what they missed, or why it happened the way it did, or whatever. Um, I will also give out some Game Master tips, like what you can do to prepare for your games, how you can make the encounters more memorable without too much effort, um, and stuff like that. So really, the series is going to focus a lot towards the Dungeon Master, because that's where all the work is. The work is done with the Dungeon Master, and you're really the one that controls your story. So you're going to need a lot of help with that. I'm going to explain to you how you can make your game gain a level, okay, and you can start your players would really benefit from that. All right, well, I appreciate you guys coming out and checking out this first video. This really wasn't, in my opinion, it really wasn't um, D&D 5.0. What it was Derek, and what you can expect from this new web series. And I appreciate you taking the time to watch this whole video. And if you like this series, please like and subscribe to my channel. And I have a whole bunch of other videos, not necessarily on Dungeons and Dragons, but if you would like to donate, you can. Appreciate you. You guys have a great day.